Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Johnson, and this is the Perpetual Chess Podcast. On Perpetual Chess, I have weekly conversations with the chess world's best players, promoters, and educators about their lives, careers, current projects, and best practices. For more information, go to perpetualchesspod.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Perpetual Chess. So we've got a great guest this week, and I will introduce him in a minute. But first, I wanted to say thanks to those who donated. I'm really gratified to have a few people make donations to the podcast, and we're off to a great start. I'm going to try not to turn this podcast into like a PBS infomercial. So this generally won't be a big topic of conversation, but just a one-time thank you, and now onward and upward. So our guest this week is a very well-known chess coach here in the United States. So I think those of you who are in the U.S. will know Coach Jay Stallings well. Those of you outside of the U.S. maybe won't have heard of him as much, but I think there's still a lot to learn because Jay has been, as his claim to fame is he's taught more than 35,000 students how to play chess, and he teaches kids of all levels, built quite a little powerhouse over there in Southern California. So without further ado, Jay, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me on. It's good to be on the show. I'm a huge fan of the show, so being on the show is quite an honor.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was only a matter of time. I know we've had a few things to work out schedule-wise, and your name has come up in the past because I know you taught I.M. Kostya-Kovyutsky when he was a young boy, and you've worked with Timur Gergiev on some of his projects, so glad to actually hear your voice on here.
Yeah, I taught Timur everything he knows about blindfold chess, and okay,
exactly.
maybe that's not quite true, but yeah, Timur and I are friends, and I was fortunate enough to be involved with his record-setting event in Vegas last December as well.
Yeah, that was something else. Okay, so Jay, let's get into your story a little bit. I know that you played chess growing up, but I mainly want to get into your chess teaching background to start out. So how long have you been teaching chess out there in Southern California?
Well, in January is going to make 24 years. So I actually started in January 94, the same week of the big earthquake here in Northridge. And so, yeah, it actually cut down my students a little bit, but it's easy to remember that way, that it was the same time as the earthquake. And my wife had said while we were on a walk, she said that a lot of kids or parents are going to want their kids to learn how to play chess with this movie, Searching for Bobby Fischer, coming out. And you were a chess player growing up, and you love coaching soccer. So what do you think? And so I started doing it part-time in January 94. And by the middle of the year, I quit my corporate job and started doing the chess as much as I could. And at first, I was a substitute teacher during the day for a couple years until the business got strong enough that I could do it full-time. And by like March of 96.
Nice. Yeah. And you mentioned in your ebook, which we'll talk about how to get your ebook about how to teach kids how to play chess, which talks about your background a little bit. You hated your corporate job, so chess was a welcome diversion.
Yeah, it was tough because, I thought that I was going to love the job. My degree was international business, and I was traveling to Latin America and doing seminars in Spanish down there, and then it was just too much travel, and I was away from my family, and so I was driving through traffic, LA traffic, and that kind of stuff. So once I stumbled onto the chess world, I said, "Hey, this is for me." But it's funny, I look back now, and the coach I was then and the coach I am now are two different people. Right.
Yeah, and back then, 1994, I feel like there were a lot fewer chess teachers, so it was a bit of a leap of faith on your part.
Yeah, we always said that we made it up.
Right.
We made up this profession, for ourselves. I mean, I know other people were definitely doing it out there, but we didn't know much about them. And so everything we were doing, we were kind of writing the book as we went, my wife and I, trying to figure out how to do this chess business.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that selfishly I'm excited to have you on, because I sometimes even now feel that way, even though I have a network of friends who help me out. There's no one to tell you how to do everything. So I'm definitely eager to hear about your experiences and how your business took shape. So So once you started, you would do a few nighttime classes, and then when did you start to feel like, okay, this business is viable?
Well, it was, viable was when it started to cover its cost and to give us enough money to barely survive. And I mean barely survive. And it was, one of those labor of love, and we just had to stick with it. I had got a lot of students early on that I still have that are strong supporters still to this day, that from the beginning they understood my passion, I guess, and dedication to it. And so by March of 96, we switched it from being a for-profit to being a nonprofit, 501c3, and started getting donations and grants and having fundraising events and different things like that. And so that enabled us to earn a little bit more, enough to pay the bills. Once again, just living, in a rented townhouse, driving one car between the two of us, that kind of thing. And a dinner out was, once every couple of weeks at a fast food place if we were rolling in the dough at that time. So it was modest beginnings for sure, and had to just stick with it and try to improve every week. And
you already had at least one kid at that point, right?
Right. Actually, Michelle was pregnant with Jackson when the earthquake hit, and so he was born in May, and I quit my day job in June, and so Jackson grew up with chests just all around him. Ryan, our older one, he saw me, he went to college with us, and so he was 9.5 years older than Jackson. So that's the two boys, though, both got to travel to nationals and things like that.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's kind of scary just to think about, trying to make a go of it with those mouths to feed, with a business that not many people considered a business at the time. So with your nonprofit, with your 501(c), is that right?
501c3.
C3. Yeah. I was guaranteed to reverse the letter. With your 501c3, so how was it structured? Like, so did you got the money and then did you charge for what you provided on top of that, or did you just get them, like, have the funding from the donors and then provide your services free?
The idea that we decided to go with was to charge the people that were going to take the class. And I mean, that's basic marketing, right? If you don't charge somebody, then they don't see any value in it. So we charge them in it for the product, but we are able to offer it at a lower price because we're also out there getting grants and donations, not only from businesses, but from individuals. And I still remember some of those first donations of people, donating, $300 or something. And it felt like it changed my life at that time. And, with the budding program, when people come up and help, that means a lot. I stood up at a team tournament in Southern California and just made a plea and said, hey, we run this nonprofit. We just started it and we're looking for any help we can get. And a complete stranger walked up to me and handed me $20. And to me, that was just like, okay, we're gonna stick with this, because this guy and put this money in here, not knowing me from Adam, and I said, okay, we're gonna give this a go.
Nice. And did you pay yourself a salary? I
tried.
Right.
So yeah, so I was salaried, and I think that the first probably 6 or 7 years of it, I did not get my salary. I was always the last person to get paid. So, I would get like the first year, I think I got like 50% of it, and Michelle was waiting tables and stuff to make it work. And then 75%. And then eventually she was, needed to help me out. And she, stopped doing the waiting tables thing and just became my full-time helper. Never a paid employee. She's always been my best employee, but never paid. And so then eventually we got to that point, 12 years ago or something like that, where I was able to get my salary and start get some benefits and things like that.
Well, okay. And you mentioned that you were the last one to be paid. So did you have other people working for you already at that point? Or
yeah, right from the start, because to go into the schools, we went into 3 or 4 schools a day. And so by doing that, I had to split up and send the coaches to different directions. So I hired some guys who were in a local college here and, trained them a little bit, not realizing actually what that training should entail at that time, thinking I did, but that was a long time ago. And so I was very fortunate. The guys at the beginning were good. They were dedicated, and we did a nice job in the schools and grew the program. But they were out there earning, more money than I paid them in order to help cover the cost of the business.
Okay. And in terms of establishing the nonprofit, did you also consider just being sort of like a private enterprise? Like what led you to the decision?
Yeah, we started as a private enterprise. It was Chess for Kids back in '94 when we started, and then in '96 we switched to the California Youth Chess League. And the reason was because we could go in the schools, and at that time, the schools didn't allow for-profit organizations to come in and do any kind of programs at all. So as a nonprofit, we could distribute flyers in the school, and we didn't have to pay a facilities fee and different things like that as well. There were some for-profits that were starting to get in this way or that, but they had to pay to get their flyers distributed, and they had to pay large facility fees, and in some cases pay a portion of what they brought in back to the school, or get sponsored by the PTA and then pay a portion to the PTA and that kind of stuff. So as a nonprofit, we were able to come in and we had originally free facilities and things like that. Things have changed, and so we do pay in some districts for the facilities, and sometimes we even pay a flyer distribution fee or something like that. But for the most part, the schools have been supportive and understand the value of chess.
Okay, and how many schools is your program in these days?
We actually had we grew to 28 at one point, and it was 1,000 kids at one time, but it was just too much. My wife realized that I like to know every single kid personally, mm-hmm. and 1,000 kids at a time was just a little bit over my limit. So we have about 700 students now in 24 schools, and instead of growing the program over the years, we've worked hard to increase the quality of the program, and so we offer more to the students and to the families as far as more options for classes, more different cool activities. We've had so many grandmasters that have come in and done things with the kids, and just, we run the state championship every year. So, and of course our curriculum has exploded with the different things, the chess passports and all the different ways that the kids can learn.
Yeah, a lot of those materials are awesome. I definitely want to talk about them at some point, but first have to quiz you a little bit more about the origins of your business, because I think myself and a lot of other people, like there's other chess teachers listening, but also just generally, I mean, the growth of a business is something that everyone has to reckon with in one way or another.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in marketing, hitting up the customer like 6 different ways, something like that. So when we go out there to a school, we are sending home a note with the PTA or doing an email blast. We're hanging banners at the school. We're emailing everybody who's been in class before, encouraging them to return, talking about all the new things that we're offering this year. And we go to the back to school nights and have a booth. Every different way that we can get contact with our potential students is what we're doing out there to help make them realize all the benefits of this wonderful game.
Nice.
And so yeah, the business side of it, if you don't have a business background, at least look at and copycat what other people are doing, and as far as how they're going about getting into these programs and making people aware of them.
Yeah, and some useful advice that I read in one of the few marketing books that I've read was that it's generally good advice to look outside your field. So, you know, obviously now we're at a point where I think there's people like you and, you know, there's well-known chess teachers doing good things and like sort of laying a groundwork if you network a little bit and ask around. But I mean, there's also like if you look at whatever other programs are already in place at your school and think about what they do and how they promote their programs, and you'll get some ideas for how to promote your own. And that applies to things outside of school chess programs too, you know, be it library classes or whatever it is you're trying to do.
That's true.
So were your classes primarily, were they all after school or were you able to come in during school hours? Because I know that can be a challenge for...
We haven't done much of that during the school hours thing. We've been fortunate to keep busy enough with the after school enrichment. We go to a couple schools during the day where the school pays us directly, and then private schools where the school touts that as one of the things that they have at their school. And so the parents go, oh, they have a chess program, fantastic. And so then they pay us to go during the school day. And of course, when we come during the school day, it's less expensive to the school than if we were going to be after school in those prime hours. And so they're able to get our coaching at a better rate.
Okay. And do you do like private lessons on the side or?
Yeah, I do a few private lessons. And we have evening classes twice a week. So I have 6 evening classes a week, but then the private lessons, I've really used that as a way for my employees to supplement their income working for me. And so, whereas I have 4 or 5 private students right now, I have employees who have 16, 17 right. Private students, and I keep pushing people that way. And I tell them, you know, I'm also more expensive. These guys are a less expensive option, and you can go to them, and then, you know, if you feel like you want to do something a little different for a while, you can come and do some lessons with me. And so I like to think I'm a very efficient coach and can spot the weaknesses in a player's game pretty easily. And I'm talking about players who are, you know, under 1,700, that kind of thing. Once my students start to get above 1,700, I start to really have to work to, you know, prepare materials for them, and that's good for my game, but it's also a lot of time that is needed in order to do that. So
yeah, I basically feel the same way. And for listeners who don't know, Jay, you're rated about 2,100, right?
About, yeah.
Okay. And how many people do you have working for you?
I have 12.
Wow.
And they're all part-time. So they're students, and I have a couple that it is one of a couple sources of income for them. But like I said, the private things help out for those coaches that work for me, from basically like 2 to 4, or some days we go to a school and it's 12 to 1:30, and then we actually jump in a car, drive to another school that starts at 2:05 and goes till 4. You know, so we're trying to be as efficient as we can as far as, you know, teaching as many schools in a single day as possible.
Nice. And you mentioned that you try to get to know all the students. So are you involved with every program where you have a teacher, or are some of them just like basically subcontracted to your employees?
There's a couple schools every year that I never make it to, I have to admit. And it's usually because the school that I'm at requires my attention every single week. As far as there might be a huge number of kids. We have a school with 100 kids in it, and
wow.
Another one with 80. And so schools like that, it's rough when I have to miss, because, you know, I like the idea of being able to direct traffic and such. And so a school with 100 kids, we'll have 3 coaches doing lessons and you know, in a couple different hallways and up on the stage, you know, and things, while the other kids are in the multi-purpose room playing and working on their books and using the tablets and things like that.
Wow, that's so crazy to even imagine 100 kids in a chess club.
It is. But yeah, I like to get to know all the kids, so I go to as many schools as possible, and then I meet a lot of the more involved kids in our evening activities. We have free chess club twice a week, and then we have our tournaments once a month, our quad tournaments, unrated.
Nice. It sounds like you must be insanely busy. Like, how many hours are you putting in a week, do you think?
During the school year, and especially prepping for the school year and stuff like that, I work all the time. So, I wake up and I like to go for my walks and listen to your podcast when I can, but I just do these short 20-minute walks. So it takes me like I just finished Alyssa Malakina's podcast this morning with a 20-minute walk, and I've still got to get Danny Gormley's. So, I'm still trying to catch up, but I do those walks in the morning, and then I start working, and somewhere in there I'll get showered and get cleaned up, but I'm working all day, and then until the night, and try to get a little bit of break a couple days a week, as far as a little time here and a little time there. I have breakfast with my wife every Thursday, and we go out every Thursday, and then other days we sit together and have a nice breakfast. So I'm glad I have time for that.
Nice. And are the kids out of the house at this point?
They are. Our boys are 32 and 23 years old. So yeah, we had them while we were young, and we like to think we're still youngish, and still, keeping active and running around doing a lot of fun stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I'm 40 and my oldest kid is 4, and I feel it. It's hard having kids late in life. They just have so much energy.
Yeah, that's true.
But I did, I had a little more freedom when I was younger, I guess. So it's always 6 in one, half dozen in the other.
That's true.
So you mentioned that your chess teaching style has changed a lot in the course of you're doing this for a living. So how has it changed?
I was very textbooked, I think, at the beginning. I mean, I always loved a good chess story, but I didn't realize that the kids would love the stories as much. And in the end, I think back to when I was a child and what captivated me with chess, and was the stories that my dad told me of, all the, Capablanca, Alaska, and Morphy, all these great events going on, and fun stories that came with them. And so I started to get back to the personal side of chess, and besides the stories about the players of a long time ago, all my top students, I'd say basically like my top 25 students or so, they can name half of the top 10 players in the world. So, they'll know, everybody knows Magnus, and then, they know the Americans, the top 3 for the main part, and then they know Aronian because they know I'm a huge Aronian fan, and so I show a lot of his games, and so they're constantly watching that, and some of the more exciting players, the kids all like Wei Yi, so his World Cup games have been a lot of fun already, and so just showing those, and this we're recording this. The World Cup is just in the second round right now. So Wei Yi had to survive losing the first game in the World Cup and come back, and so in any case, I've infused a lot more of the personal stories and talking to the kids about how these players have the same difficulties they do. They lose a game and then they're focused on that, or they make a bad move, and then after that, if they don't regain their composure, then it's just going to get worse and worse. And so they have to be able to bounce back and fight through that. In the later rounds, those players are tired. We see, times in the past, and not so much in the last couple of years, where Magnus had a lot of difficulty in the rounds before a rest day, as far as, because he just pours everything into his games. And talk to the kids about when you sit down at the board, it's a wonderful, beautiful, fantastic game. Be ready for a 6-hour battle. Hope it's a long, long game so that you can get the most out of it. And if it's not, and your opponent blunders early, great, fantastic. That's okay too. But always look look forward to a game where you're going to get to play an opening, a middle game, and an end game, because each part of the game has magic and beauty to it, and there's different things that you're going to think about, and hopefully every step of the way you'll be thinking efficiently and creatively and using everything that you have. And so I talk a lot about all the different skills needed to play a solid game of chess, and compare that a lot to business and life, and even picking a life partner someday. You're not going to pick the first nice person you see, but you're going to keep looking and try this out and think about these different things. And so the kids are, of course, a little embarrassed. The younger ones are like, oh, girlfriend, yuck. But but I try to have fun with it, and I get to know my students pretty well, and the parents trust me with them, that I'm gonna talk about things, but not definitely take over their job as far as all the things that a parent likes to discuss with their child.
Right. And what rating are your stronger students, like, generally?
I have a student who's 1,800. He's my strongest one, and then from there 1,600. I have 3 years ago I only had 12 players over 1,000 in our program, but the app came out, and then our curriculum, and I felt that I started to structure all of the lessons really well at that time, because I had to be organized for the app, and I had to really get an order of progression.
Sorry to cut you off, but can you tell the listeners more about the app, just so that they know what you're referring to?
Yes. So when I created a chess app 3 years ago called Coach Jay's Chess Academy, and I wanted to aim it at new players, because that's who needs the most help, and so it really starts with the simplest of things. But I wanted to break it down and have more disciplines, that I call them, instead of just a tactics book or a checkmate book or an endgame book. And so the app has the 5 disciplines of chess, and that's something I created, this concept. And so there's checkmate, defense, endgame, strategy, and tactics. And strategy is positional chess, and it starts strategy in level 1. There's 5 levels in the app, but level 1 is castling, and learning, making sure these kinds of rules in chess, and under promotion and stuff. And then by the time you're getting to level 5, it's forcing an exchange to improve your pawn structure, or we get to different things like a knight outpost, and creating a knight outpost, and different stuff like that. So the strategy lessons are something that I've found a way to make them fun, instead of you having to read my system in order to learn positional chess.
Okay. And getting back to the stories that you like to tell your students. So you talked a bit about how you like to weave chess history into your lessons, at least with the stronger players. Do you do that with, like, beginner level classes as well?
I do it as much as possible. I mean, obviously everybody's going to hear about the Morphy game. And I love listening to other coaches who maybe know a little bit more about it. And sometimes those coaches, like me, they'll take some liberties with it, because, hey, why not? And so I don't know if how accurate it was when Maurice said that, Maurice Ashley I'm talking about, of course, when he said that the Duke and the Count put Morphy's back to the opera, and he loved the opera, so he wanted to make them pay for doing that, so,
Hard to believe we have that level of detail, but you never know.
But, I think a coach can sometimes take a little creative license, and so with that, I grab onto little bits like that and weave those in when I can as well. I'm a big fan of stealing everybody's material in order to educate children and keep them entertained. So
yeah,
if I see you putting something out there, Ben, that I like, it's gone, man.
I was going to say, I was looking through your materials that you sent me before the interview, and you had one of the checkmates you mentioned is the in your face checkmate, which, like, for the listeners is like, queen right in front of a king on the edge of the board, supported by something. So, like, bishop on h6 for white queen on g7, black king on g8, any variation of that. And I've always called that queen and a helper, which I think I was taught by chess in the schools many years ago. But in your face checkmate is way better, so I'm definitely stealing that.
I had to create these, and I've created so many different chess expression terminology, but the in your face one was an easy one for me. Once I created that so many years ago, and the kids love it, and they just can describe after a game. Oh, how did your game finish? Oh, I did an in your face mate, or I did a cheek face mate, which is first in your cheek check. So the queen takes the f7 pawn, the king's on g8, he goes to h8, and then queen takes h7 mate, so a cheek face mate. And so the kids can quickly describe things, just like we expect kids nowadays to say, oh yeah, it was a queen's gambit decline, and we can easily know what they're talking about. Well, with these, they can say, oh yeah, I did, it was a rook and pawn endgame, and I did front pawn freeze, which is, another thing that I use when I'm teaching the kids about rook and pawn endgames. I have a ton of different patterns named so that the kids can recognize them, and I think when you have a name to a pattern, it makes it easier for the child to recall it,
right? Because
recall is a lot easier if you have an image and a name to go with it.
Can you think of any other out of all the names you've come up with that are like the biggest crowd pleasers?
Well, I use for checkmate patterns, I've got the bishop back out mate, where sometimes your queen's on h6 and the king is castled king on g8, and a pawn on f7, and the bishop goes to h7, and then the king to h8, and the bishop backs out to g6 to guard f7 for what's going to be a cheek face mate. The king discovered check, king g8, queen to h7 check, king to f8,
right, and
then queen takes f7. And I apologize for those people out there that I'm moving a little too fast with that. But in any case, so that there's the bishop back out mate, and then with the rook and pawn end games, there's seventh rank skewer. There's give and go. There's check bait, where you bait the rook away from that's behind your pawn so that you can promote it, and then the buddy system with the two pawns marching up the board to go up against one pawn to create a pass pawn. And
what's the give and go?
Give and go, your rook is lined up on the fifth rank, and so is their rook. You have a pawn maybe on c5 and a pawn guarding it on b4, and you push your c pawn, opening up the discovery. They take your rook for free, and then you push your pawn to c7.
Okay, that's a pretty exact scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea is that the discovery, and then you push up, and so it could happen with other pieces as well. But you push the pawn and give away a piece with the discovery, and then you can push, and they can't come back and get you. So,
okay.
So yeah, different things like that.
Nice.
So, and yeah, just fun.
Yeah, it is fun, and I know. That I think I mentioned a little bit in the intro, but the testimonials you get on your Facebook page are incredible. Like, I don't know if these parents are on your payroll or what, but the way they jump in with praise for your teaching just makes me think like, man, I want to see videos. I want to be exposed to this so that I can again steal all your material.
Oh, well, that's nice. I think we actually have plans to start loading up video as soon as today. So little by little, things are going to start going up, and I actually haven't videoed myself in a lot of lessons, and the ones I have done early on, I think I'm a little bit stiff and pandering to the camera a bit. When usually I'm in a class, I try to be a showman and play off the crowd, so to speak. But yeah, we'll see how these videos turn out, and having the camera angle the right way and all that kind of stuff. I don't know these kinds of things.
Right. Okay. Well, so zooming in from the group classes, like in terms of individual advice to people, like let's talk about chess improvement. What do you tell people? Like if you're 1500 and you're trying to get make the next jump, what advice do you give your students? Well,
one thing I do that I don't see everybody doing is checks, captures, and attacks. I think, I tell them you have to think efficiently. And so you always, every time it's your turn to move, you go 2 moves deep at checks, captures, and attacks. So you're never surprised by your opponent, and you're also never missing these tactics, because you might just you always look for a check first, and always start with a safe check, and then go from there to checks that look crazy, a sacrifice. But then before you start looking at captures that you can play against your opponent, look at your opponent's checks that can be played, because you could capture their queen and then they can mate you. So you have to look at their checks, and then you go back and look at the captures you can make and go 2 moves deep. And then you look at their captures, and then you go to attacks. And how can you attack their pieces, starting with attacking their queen, and then their rooks, and then their minors, and eventually attacking their pawns. And sometimes we find that just going 2 moves deep, we're going to find stuff that maybe we're not going to be looking for, because it looks a little crazy or outlandish, or it's a knight moving backwards to attack something, trap a queen, that kind of thing. So that's helped me to avoid blunders in games, and also it makes me less nervous. And so I'm not worried that I'm going to blunder, because I have a system that stops that from happening. But in 2009, I had like a revelation, and I decided to have a positional chess camp. And so I started to say, I need material for this camp. And I started studying, of course, Petrosian books, and looking through any book that had positional in the title. I was, pawn power in chess, and,
right.
chess strategy, and whatever it was, learning about all that kind of stuff. And then I told myself, I'm going to sacrifice my usual style. Instead of playing like Mikhail Tal wannabe, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play good, solid chess. Don't make any sacrifice. Maybe I can do the pseudo sacrifices if I know that it's going to work. I can do that, but no sacrifices just for play or excitement. I'm going to play good, solid chess, and then hopefully I'll lead to these good positions, and my students will learn something. If I lose a game, then it'll be because my opponent outplayed me, and we'll learn something. And so I played in this tournament, and I won it. I just destroyed everybody, and I guess that's not true. One game I got really lucky, but but by playing positionally, I realized that I could use my tactics later on, because I would get myself in such a great position. So my need to play tactically was satisfied in almost every single one of the games, because I got myself into these great positions by doing that. And so now I tell my students, always play a move that improves your position. To say, if I push this pawn attacking their queen, does that improve my position? Do I now have a better pawn structure? If I move my knight to attack their rook, is my knight more central, or is it over on the side? If I misplaced it, don't play moves that are just looking at a single plan that your opponent can easily stop. And
right. Hope chess.
I even saw that. Yeah, I tell kids, hope chess is when you play a bad move, hoping your opponent will play a worse one.
Right.
And
that's a good line.
So we even saw in Wei Yi's first round loss in the World Cup that he was playing everything on the queen side, and his opponent was following through with just good, solid chess. And then after a few moves, Wei Yi's queen side play allowed a break in the center, and then there was a lot of trouble, a lot of pressure, and suddenly he was lost. And I think it was like 24 moves or something like that, that he lost to someone who he outrated by a couple hundred, 250 points or something.
Yeah, but then the heroic comeback, so he's still alive.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. Love that kid. It's fun to watch.
So who's your pick to win the World Cup? This will come out in 4 days, so hopefully whoever you pick won't be eliminated by then. But
yeah. My buddy picked Pavel Elyanov to win it all, and he didn't even draw a game. So yeah, I have to go with Aronian. I'm an Aronian homer. I'd love to see one of the Americans come through. It was great to see Sam Sevian advance in the first round. And
Lenderman just advanced to the Sweet 32 or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I didn't get the update this morning, so that's great. Linderman, I got to know him a little bit in Virginia. He sat at our table at the award ceremony, but he's a character, and it was great to see him playing well, and so any of the Americans, I'd love to see that. my students are all fans of the Americans. I pump them up a lot. Loved your interview with Nakamura. He's so well spoken and can speak on such a variety of things and such. And of course, I'd love to learn more about Wesley So. I did a camp with him with Wesley So a couple years ago, and I got to play a game of hand and brain with Fabiano in a London pub a couple years ago. That was quite an experience.
Well, what is hand and brain?
Hand and brain is he was the brain, obviously, and so we sit at the chessboard, and he says pawn, and I move a pawn, and he says knight, I move a knight. So I have to figure out which pawn he's talking about and where he wants me to move it. And it's a really great game with students and coaches and with higher rated players and lower rated players because it's less frustrating for us lower rated players when I'm playing with a grandmaster. If I'm not going to feel totally lost if I get a little guidance. Oh, I'm supposed to move a pawn, and I can search the board and find the pawn and move that. And one thing I learned playing with Fabiano in this just 8-minute experience in my life was that grandmasters use their pawns a lot,
right?
and I kept it was a 5-minute game, and he had Robert Hess was on the other side advising this young woman that I was playing against, and she was also around 2000. And so I'm reaching for a knight, and he says pawn, and I'm like, okay, and I move. There it is. Yeah, keep his knight out. And then I'm reaching for a bishop. Next move, pawn. Oh, right, give my king some left. It's just like, wow, this is I'm learning something there.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, it's a great game, hand and brain. We did it with Robert Katende and Benjamin from the Queen of Kotway fame. They were in town a couple of weeks ago. We had a fundraiser for them, and the kids loved sitting side by side with these famous players. So it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Okay, so what else? We need to talk about your Kickstarter, Jay. So
oh yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. I've seen across America that there's a lot of chess coaches that are getting out there. But there's also a lot of places. When I go to nationals, I talk to families, and they're from these small communities where there's no coach, and they're asking for guidance. What do we do? Where do we go from here? And so, in teaching chess for all these years to over 35,000 kids, it's got to be like 37 or 38 by now. But I've just keep refining my lessons, and problem by problem. If it's too tough, I move it back a little further into the workbook. If it's too easy, I throw an extra pawn on the board. Whatever I can do to make things more instructive. And so, over almost 24 years of coaching, I've refined my curriculum to a point where I think it can be really helpful and easy to use by people in their homes that don't have access to a chess coach, and even those that do have a coach. It's a nice supplement, I think. A coach, you can never replace a chess coach. There's so much that a coach can do for a student, but having that supplemental material is also good. And so, in the Kickstarter, we're trying to develop the curriculum further to be able to print it, but not print it onesie twosies or these small batch runs that I'm getting coaches ordering from across America. They order my curriculum for their programs, but print it in a bigger, more professional format, layout, make it look as attractive as possible to the students, because that's important. It needs to look great for them to want to be able to use it, and so we'll clean up the curriculum that I have. I'll work on making sure that the puzzles are as efficient as possible, and we're going to the next level. I'll push up so that we have our final levels of the chess curriculum ready for the kids, so that they can really go as far as they want in chess. And then we have the chess passport, which looks like a regular passport, but it's fun colors on the inside and out, and then there's a bunch of stickers that the kids can earn that go inside it. Anything from a rook roller sticker, king and queen checkmate, Lucena position,
wow,
knight versus pawns, and so that and it has a guide on how you can learn knight versus pawn. You know, how does a knight chase against a pawn and catch up to it, and you know, things like that, and the rooks against pawns, queen against pawn, all these kinds of things, and we'll expand that out all the way to bishop and knight mate. But there's a sticker for castling and king and rook checkmate, and then there's stickers for finishing the books, for playing in a blitz tournament, a bug house tournament. We'll keep expanding those. We have coach's helper, junior chess coach, and things like that. So there's over 40 stickers right now, and our plan, we have a bunch that we have already sketches done on, and we're going a lot further. I even asked the Magnus people back in November at the World's Championship if we could do stickers for beating Magnus age 5, age 6 in the Play Magnus app. And they said, sure, of course. Right. So good publicity for them at the same time. So I think that's another sticker that can go in there for the kids as they progress through that app. Okay.
And I saw I know the Kickstarter page as we record is sort of still in beta, but you're finishing it up and it's going to be out around the time of this podcast. So what's the goal? What's the dream goal of the Kickstarter?
Our goal is to help popularize chess in America. It's to get more people to be fans of the game, to connect. It's also, we're building the coaches page. There's a resource link for the coaches, a resource link for parents. And so we want to connect people together, bring the communities together, have the parents find coaches and coaches find students, and but also all the people that feel like they're on the fringe, that they can come in, they can get comfortable with their game, because I think a lot of people might choose not to join an organization like US Chess because they don't feel like they're ready for it. I like to play tennis, but I haven't joined USTA because I'm not that good.
Right.
And so, different things like that. But if we get them comfortable with the game, and through my curriculum, I also try to talk as much as I can about different aspects of the game as well, psychology and tournaments and stuff, just little notes here and there. Then hopefully they can all those different people across America can feel comfortable with chess. They know the game, they know this weird move called en passant, and they can confidently join the ranks of the people that are rated players, and even if they don't, they can get out there and play this game we all love so much.
Nice. That sounds excellent to me, and I've definitely had experience with it. Is harder for small town chess aficionados to find activities for their kids. I mean, Chess Kid is amazing, but chess is we're social creatures, so ultimately kids need to find other kids if they're going to maintain their interest.
Yeah, true.
So Jay, I know you've got a lot going on with this Kickstarter, and I noticed that you launched it right after some, I guess, unfortunate news, at least unfortunate to me, and that the USCF has just named a new executive director, and I know that you were one of the finalists. So could you tell us a little bit about what led you to apply for that position?
Yeah, well, I was always in the chess world, always involved in U.S. chess. I was a player growing up. Before that, my dad was a player, and he was a Florida State champion back in 1963, and so then he founded the Orlando Chess Club and then ran the Houston Chess Club for a while as well. And so I was a player growing up. I was number 3 in the nation when I was 13 for kids under 13 when I was 11. So I was really into it. And so then I did that, stopped when I was in hitting high school and did sports and girls and things like that. And then came back with searching for Bobby Fischer and started playing again and got into it, became a coach, an affiliate, an organizer, a tournament director, one of those tournament directors that I can pair with pairing cards and that kind of thing. Became a state rep, a state scholastic coordinator, president of our state organization, and then on the scholastic committee, and then on the council, and then co-chair of the council. So I just kept, jumping in and doing things with U.S. Chess, and I was seeing, I thought I could help. And a lot of people encouraged me when the opening came out, and they said, "Hey, Jay, you should do this." And at first I said no, but then Michelle and I talked about it, and I said, "Okay, yeah, it's going to be a sacrifice. It's going to change our lives and things like that. But I'm going to apply for this job." And I did, and I had a lot of ideas, but I think it just wasn't. In the end, I have a ton of respect for the executive board, and I think that they worked hard to find just the right candidate for what they need right now, and I think they did. And so I'm looking forward to seeing. I think Carol Myers. I think I'm looking forward to seeing how she's going to take U.S. Chess from here, and she has a lot of help out there, and I think that we can all stand behind her. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, Jay, this is a horrible decision," but I tell my students the story of the 1851 London tournament, and I say, if I could go back in time, I would go to that tournament because nobody knew what was going to happen. And I asked the kids, I say, if I went and represented our community, we live in Santa Clarita Valley, if I went and represented Santa Clarita in a chess tournament in Los Angeles, who would win first? And they would say, "Oh, you would win, Coach Jay, you would win." And of course, they have no idea of who else is running. And so who else is going for it? And there's Grandmaster Malik Kachian, and suffice it to say, I wouldn't win. And so, obviously, I'm so my heart is just overwhelmed with just love for all my friends that supported me through this process and stuff. But at the same time, we don't know who the other candidates were, and obviously. Miss Myers is a very deserving person. So I think it's the same kind of thing with my community sending me off and saying, for sure, you're going to be the best at this. And I think I would have done a great job, but I think that she's going to do a really great job. And she's the fit for what that board is looking for right now at this time. So
yeah, emphasizing fundraising or so here, which obviously the chess world could use some more funds. So we get that. But let's hear some of your ideas. So I know you prepared a lot for the interviews. What was your vision?
Yeah, I think that my biggest vision was to be a helper. Well, I mean, first of all, I like the idea that U.S. Chess is going to get a great sponsor, a great corporate sponsor. And think of it this way: if you're in a high school and prom is next week, and a new person transfers to your high school. And this new person is super nice and super attractive, and yet is not going to the prom. It's not because this person's flawed. It's just because they're new on the block, and whoever it is that gets to go to prom with this person would be very fortunate.
She's on pre.
Yeah, she or he, right?
Right.
So well said. And so in any case, I think U.S. Chess is the same way. U.S. Chess is this organization that is new on the block, and oh man, what a catch. If some corporation wants to look good, they should partner with U.S. Chess, because there's nothing wrong with U.S. Chess. It's actually the opposite. U.S. Chess is an organization that promotes educating the people, of all ages, and helping us with our critical thinking, and improves everything from test scores in school to fighting off Alzheimer's. And so anybody who partners, any corporation that decides to partner with U.S. Chess, it's going to be such a smart decision on their part, a smart move. And so that one to me is easy. And I think that it's going to be very quick and very soon that we're going to have a corporation, a big name that's going to step up and partner with U.S. Chess and help provide resources that we need to further the game.
Do you have inside info on this, or just a good feeling?
No.
Okay.
No inside info on it. I think it's just a no-brainer for the organizations out there, the corporations. And then for me, I wanted to really work, and this idea came up in a couple of different committees I'm on, so it's not like it's all original ideas on my part, but I went with it and developed these ideas. And I want to get the affiliates better trained to go out there and into the community to attract and retain members, keep them there. Our organization, we do a great job of keeping our students. And at a school that I just had yesterday, last semester, we had 32 students, and like 2 of them graduated, 6th grade, moving on to 7th grade, and then 2 of them didn't sign up again, and then the other 28 all came back to chess. And so I have a lot of confidence in my ability to understand how to retain customers, students, and keep them in the fold. And most of that is simple stuff. It's giving them the attention they deserve, welcoming them, making them understand what it is that you do, and that kind of thing. So train the affiliates to welcome the members and to keep them and grow the organization, because the affiliates are the ones that are signing up members, bringing in income to the organization, and they're also running tournaments. And so we also need to make sure that the tournament directors are all very comfortable with the rules and know all the different kinds of events they can do. A few years ago, I don't know who started it, but Steve Emmett's made it popular, or the mixed doubles things where
right, yeah.
You have that. And I think that's helping a little bit. And I like team tournaments a lot, but I think most tournament directors don't know how to run a team tournament, or they're not quite sure. And so if we trained everybody on how to run a team tournament, I think that's really good for retention and activity too. I mean, I played in a team tournament 19 years in a row, and then the team tournament left to go to Northern California, and I didn't play in a tournament that year. So, and then I kind of fell away for a little while. So the team tournaments are something that builds a lot of camaraderie, and it helps us to realize the social aspects of the game of chess. And so for me, doing those kinds of things, training everybody, informing the people, making sure that the members know all the different things that are available to them, and the affiliates know their position and how they can help. The key members are delegates and committee members and committee chairs, all those people that do so much work and volunteer work. If we can help them to do what they do even better, then I think that U.S. chess is just going to grow and grow and grow. So that's the main idea of my vision and how we could help grow the game. And I like the idea of just growing the game, whether it's members or not. If we grow chess in America, then a certain percentage of them are going to join U.S. chess. So by swelling the ranks of chess players in America, and I think that all of our online services have helped us out a lot, chess.com and ICC and Chess24 and such, they've helped to swell the ranks of U.S. chess players, because people are playing chess and they say, hey, I want to go see if I can win some money.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Cool. So now it's back to business in Southern California, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, the Kickstarter was taking a back seat. And so now, as soon as the word came from the executive board that they had chosen somebody else, then I said, okay, Kickstarter jumps back to the front, because we'd been planning a lot longer on the Kickstarter than I had been planning on running for the executive director. Okay.
And Jay, you were kind enough to send me some points that you wanted to address. So I want to thank you for that. Makes my job easier. So one question that you had highlighted was who's getting it done in the chess world. So what do you think? Who's I don't know, like whether on the international or local stage, who's been impressing you lately?
Well, I wanted to address that because I think that the people that are out there and working on chess are not getting enough recognition, and also a lot of people don't know who they are, so they don't know who to turn to and stuff like that. And so my answer actually is that I wish I knew everybody that was getting it done in the chess world, but my guess is that there's somebody out there, the person who's probably getting it done the most, we've never heard of, and she's out there listening, and she's doing her thing in her community and growing it, and we could all I'll probably learn a lot from her. But obviously, the movers and shakers out there in the world are, in the United States at least, start in St. Louis and New York and places like that. The Singfields were really lucky to have their sponsorship and love of the game. And I, listening to the podcast, I know that you haven't been to the St. Louis Chess Center yet, and it is like Disneyland for chess players. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I've been 4 times and I just love it. Everything about it is just like heaven for a chess player. And so the Singfields are getting it done, and their all-star team, of course, those guys are like the face of chess with Maurice and Jen and all that team there. And you've got the online presence, and Greg Shahade does a lot of stuff too. With he I guess is the Twitter king in a lot of respects, and what everything he does with the U.S. Chess School has really helped step U.S. chess forward. Mike Klein, the dedication that he shows to his profession of being a chess journalist and stuff. I like Mike a lot. He's genuine and he knows his subject. I think he probably knows more people in chess than anybody in the world. I think it's pretty safe to say that, because he goes across all the borders and from sea to shining sea, and it's his job to know the people, so he does, and so he's really an amazing person as far as doing all that. And then you see him at nationals in the Chess Kid booth, and you're like, wow, this guy is like one of the most powerful chess people on the planet, and here he is in the Chess Kid booth.
But he's like the Beatles in the '60s at the Chess Kid booth. All the little kids screaming.
The kids are running up to him, and they all want their photo with him and everything like that, and they can't believe it that it's really him. So he's big, but you've got the people out there. I mean, the executive board, they're getting it done.
Despite their poor choice for executive director.
Yeah, that's funny. But like Alan Priest really turned things around with Chuck Unruh, those guys working together to change, help us out financially and stuff, and the whole board worked together to fix a lot of our situation. U.S. Chess was in the red, and they worked super hard to change those things. They changed with Gene Hoffman. They were able to, get some work done on the website, make that less clunky, and it's moving forward with a bigger budget than ever. And then they also, changed the logo and the look. A lot of policies and procedures. They've tried to make sure that those are going nice and smooth. And so the executive board, they're definitely getting it done. And all those people that are committee chairs, you'll Ryan Velez, and such out there, Beatrice Marinello. Beatrice is across the borders. She's doing stuff in the U.S. And she's doing stuff internationally with FIDE. So we see that happening. And then Carol Jarecki, of course, she's training all these people to run tournaments in America and abroad as well. Frank Guadalupe and Chris Bird and those kind of guys that are gaining all those skills. John Haskell, Glenn Panner. I'm talking about people that are organizers, but they go beyond their states, move into different areas. Dwayne Barber, of course, his Barber tournament of K8 champions and stuff and everything he's done with the Denker and such. And he's like an international ambassador too. So I'm just saying these names off the top of my head. So I'm leaving all my friends out. Yeah. Martha Underwood and stuff that are always helping at all these tournaments, and having ideas, not just working stiffs, but having ideas to move things forward, and they have great hearts, people that really want to change the game. So there's a lot of fantastic people out there that are doing great things. I mean, the chess league, the Pro Chess League, is great. I know that Steve Abrams and Brian Tillis, those guys, have pushed a lot, the publicity with that. Kosta Kavutsky, who you had on, of course, is great, and a lot of great ambassadors for the game, and seeing that you have a lot of those guys on is pretty cool too. So I've really enjoyed all those podcasts.
Thanks. Yeah, and there's so many more great personalities that we can still get on. I feel like the one thing that, I feel like chess is kind of clicking on all cylinders with the possible exception of FIDE. Right now.
Yeah, it's funny because FIDE is this organization that can be looked at one of two ways. It's above U.S. chess in that sense that, we're national and they're global. And yet they have some corruption issues with Kirsan and Molchanov that, having questionable motives. I don't, here
Right.
and there. I don't know enough about it to comment on it. I don't know, Kirsan myself, and but I just from what I hear, sometimes he says this and sometimes he says that, and there's some difficulties at the top with the power struggles. But so that's yeah, FIDE's interesting in that it's above, and yet it also struggles a lot. And right now they're having some financial issues, and so those are definitely concerns for all of us in the United States that are looking up to FIDE in a lot of different ways. I mean, I became a FIDE trainer this last year, and thanks to Beatrice Marinell holding a thing at the Marshall Chess Club, and so I was really proud of that. I continue to be proud of that, but at the same time, wearing my FIDE pin in the U.S. chess meetings in Norfolk felt a little bit funny as people are criticizing FIDE, for this, problem or that problem. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got so many positive forces going on right now that hopefully if that big domino can fall into place, I really think, chess can grow a lot more. I mean, and it's already on a good track.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so a couple more topics, Jay. You mentioned Sean's Fund. Tell me about Sean's Fund.
Yeah, I think a lot of communities have something like Sean's Fund, but we're fortunate to have Sean's Fund. And Sean Reeder was a student of mine in 2005. He was diagnosed with leukemia on April 1st, and a few days later we hopped on a plane for Super Nationals. And my team, Sean and then my son Jackson, who was on the same elementary school team, and one of my coaches who now works for me as a chess coach, Sam Kennedy, and another kid, Chris Todd. The four of them tied for second at nationals in the K6 Open, which was a really huge accomplishment. And they were led by Sean. He was playing way above his rating level. But a year and a half later, he did succumb to leukemia and all the complications from that. And he was our top student, and his parents said, "Hey, let's do something positive moving forward." So Sean's Fund is something that not only gives financial aid to kids that want to do chess tournaments and classes and camps, but we take these chess kits to the kids at the Children's Hospital and City of Hope here in Los Angeles, and also to a couple hospitals around the nation where I know people who are nurses that, and we get the chess kits, and the chess kits have a nice magnetic chess set in them, one of the Drukis. They have my chess book, Fried Liver Burning Pants, with fun chess stories. And then they have pawn keychains and a hat to cover their head, and, with the, ball cap, Sean's Fun logo and stuff, and, chess pencil and a wristband and stuff like that, and a nice little backpack, because a lot of times when you're going from hospital room to hospital room, like Sean was, you're going to need that backpack to carry back and forth. And so we have one of those, and they get a nice little stuffed animal in there as well. So we have that, and Sean's Fund also sponsors the Master Junior Simul, which is a really cool event that Sean loved to play in which you have 4 masters, and each of them has 6 players on their team, 6 young, talented juniors, and they go up against the other teams in just a 2-round Swifts, 1 round before lunch and then 1 after. And the masters play simultaneously against the 6 kids on the other team in a clock simul, and then we have a catered lunch, and then we do the afternoon, and then present trophies and medals, and there's photos and gifts for all the participants and things like that. And it's really brought our chess community together in Southern California, because we picked the strongest young players from Southern California, and we picked the grandmasters and international masters to come play in it. So we've had Enrico Sevillano and Malik's there every year, and Andronic Montecosian, and Keaton Kirwa was playing this year, and we've had Tatev Abrahamian. Timur played with us one year.
Nice.
And so we've had a lot of great players come in and do the Sean Reeder Master Junior Simul. And now the kids just call it the Sean Reeder. The average rating of the kids a couple years ago in our event was 2,080. And that was the 6 kids. That was their average rating playing against these 2,500 rated grandmasters. So there's strong, young, talented players that get invited to this free event that gives them a nice chance to relax with their chess friends in a non-stressful environment. There's no rating points or anything like that. So Sean's Fund does all that, and we have an annual fundraising dinner. It's actually in a couple of weeks, the 24th, in which we have silent auction and different things, and have a lot of great prizes, a lot of them chess-related that people can bid on and stuff, and raise money for that. So yeah, thanks for asking about that.
Sure, yeah. So we'll put a link to it in the show description. Jay, I don't know how you keep all these events and activities straight. My head is spinning already.
Well, my wife's wonderful. We've been married for a lot of years, and so Michelle's always there for me to help me out when I can't figure out all this stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, to develop the curriculum too, because I mean, there's great resources. I mean, the stuff you sent me was incredible. I mean, it was great diagrams and good, like, kid-friendly presentation and stuff like that. But there's, you don't have to do that. So to take the time to make something like that is quite commendable, and the materials look great.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like them.
So outside of the materials that you've created, what are your standby chess resources? Like, do you have book recommendations or a particular lecture on YouTube that struck you? And what do you tell people to study at home?
Well, I'm a fan of chess history, so I've always kind of learned through history and do a lot of chess history books and do the lessons in there myself and share those with my students. But as far as myself, I made a big jump with Reassess Your Chess. Mm-hmm. As far, just, oh, wow, there's imbalances and right. We should try to get rid of the bad things. Oh, this is a great idea. Love Jeremy Silman. Winning Chess Brilliancies by Yasser Seirawan is one of my favorite books, because it does what my dad always said a book should do. It, if you can learn from it if you're new, but you can also learn from it if you're a master. And I think that game that book, Winning Chess Brilliancies, has a lot to offer. I think the Silman Endgame book is great. I think it's called Silman's Complete Endgame Course.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then because he says, okay, if you're this rating, you should know these endgames. If you're 1400, you should know these. If you're 1600, you should know these. So that's a nice little way, because otherwise you might pick up a book and go, what should I study? Am I ready to study this? So I like the way he lays it out. And 1001 Winning Sacrifices and Combinations, 1001 Brilliant Checkmates. And then, just any tactics books, like the Tactics Time books by, I think it's Tim Brennan and Anthea Carson. Those are good books. And David McAnulty's got Your First Chess Tactics. And so I know I'm giving you way too many books, and I can email you the list later on. But and I with my really advanced students, I have them do Ray Cheng's book, Practical Chess Exercises, because it could be that the position you have to play a defensive move, or you need to trade pieces, or it's a tactic. It could be a mate. It could be a pawn jettison. And so you get to learn a lot of different patterns in that book as well. So
yeah, I know Elizabeth Spiegel's a fan of that book too. So you guys have to be two of the most revered chess teachers in the country. So strong recommendations for practical chess exercises.
To put me in her category. She's she created quite a monster over there with 318. So yeah, she's legendary.
Nice. Okay. Well, Jay, I think we've hit all of the major topics that I had highlighted. Is there anything else that you want to touch on?
I did want to say to people out there to enjoy the game. Don't let chess stress you out too much. It's definitely a game that when you sit down and you play a game, at the end of it, your opponent. I run into people that I played them 10 years ago, and I can't remember who won the game, but I can remember if the guy was a jerk or not,
Right.
or a nice person. So, enjoy the game, enjoy every aspect of it. Try to play the best move every time you play. Every time I sit down, I'm trying to create a brilliancy that, will be looked at for many years to come. But, am trying now to get chess experiences all around the world and travel as much as I can to them. Thanks to your podcast, now Reykjavik is on the radar.
Yeah.
So,
For sure. Yeah.
You've had at least 2 people say that was their favorite tournament, and I think it could be 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, love the game, enjoy the game, spread the game, and never let it discourage you. If you're ever at a national event or something and you have any questions, you're feeling like you're on the outside looking in, make sure you ask somebody and tell them that if I'm there, come up to me, just walk right up, even if I'm in the middle of something, and stand there, and I'll turn and we'll talk and become friends. So I hope that everybody can become better people, even better thinkers, more creative, always cognizant of what the other people are thinking by playing our game.
Yeah, and for those listening, Jay is really good on the benefits of chess. So if you check out his stuff online, he's really good at hitting why it's a noble pursuit, both for the casual for kids in school and for the hardcore fans like us. And Jay, I think you've been a great guest because last week, I know you said you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but last week we had GM Danny Gormley on, who's an amazing player, and I really enjoyed his interview, but I think some people found it a bit sobering because he's focused mainly on the playing, and that can be tough if you're not one of the world's tippy top. He's merely a grandmaster, which can make life hard. But you've got sort of the other end of the spectrum where you've made your livelihood from chess, but it's really focused on reaching out to touching as many people as possible, and it's quite inspiring.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that, and I'm already looking forward to listening to Danny's thing because I'm a chess fan. So no matter what podcast you seem to have, whoever you interview, I'm always right there with you, Ben, and I appreciate you doing this. And I want everybody out there to jump online and support Ben because I certainly don't want to see this go away.
Oh yeah, it's not in danger of going away anytime soon, barring some sort of crazy family circumstance. But yeah, right. Support is definitely appreciated. So thanks for that. So Jay, we'll definitely link to your Kickstarter and to Sean's fund. But if people just want to drop you a line, where should they do that?
Yeah, they can go through the Coach Jay's Chess Academy website and click on Contact Us, or just Coach Jay at CoachJaysChessAcademy.com. Sorry, that's so long, but it should be pretty easy to remember. And so they can just email me there, and I'll send back resources and different things like that to help them get their club started and that kind of stuff as well. So if they're looking for any kind of advice on coaching or starting a club or running a tournament, that kind of thing, then hit me up.
Excellent. All right. I'm sure that people will. All right. Well, thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Ben. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Perpetual Chess. To hear more episodes, give feedback, or suggest guests, go to perpetualchesspod.com. If you like the show, please help me out by telling your friends and giving me a high rating on iTunes. I'll be back next week with another episode of the Perpetual Chess Podcast.